As an old Hoosier, I send all of you my warm greetings. I find that I've been places in the state of Indiana that even he hasn't been. But I'm delighted. I know that you wouldn't have known that if you just read your newspaper here. I just wanted to first announce to all of you that I've been here for about 3 weeks. And that I've been around the state and I've even made speeches. I've even talked about the issues. Now, I know that if you just read the newspaper, you wouldn't know any of those things. I just think that I just appear in the funny papers of the cartoons. But we've had a great time here, and my wife and I, and she's on her way here. She just flew in from Washington, and so she's looking forward to meeting all of you as well. But we've had a great time over the period of the last 3 weeks. In fact, not only about the people of the state, but just about our history and the fact that we were able to bring our children down to the southern Indiana where Abraham Lincoln lived and where President Harrison lived. And I was so delighted to visit the home which they call the White House of the Midwest, and then find he had 10 children. President Harrison died after a very short term in office. President Kennedy and I used to talk, exchange during that period of time. Most of our conversations were by telephone or in person. But I sent him one memorandum because I found a memorandum that had been written by President Harrison's Secretary of State, who was Daniel Webster. And when Tyler took over from Harrison, Daniel Webster sent him a memorandum and said, on all important issues, the President doesn't decide them, he submits them to the Cabinet and the President. And everybody has one vote, and then we decide all policy questions by a vote, and the majority wins. So I sent the memorandum to President Kennedy, and I suggested, instead of speaking us in a rather cavalier fashion, that he allow all of the decisions made in his administration to be made by majority vote of the Cabinet, and he'd have one vote the same as I would. And I never got an answer. I stayed in the Cabinet, but I never got an answer. But I'm delighted to see all of you. This is a very, very important primary in a very, very important state, because this is where the people themselves decide. And this is where we're running for President of the United States. I read in the paper that somebody's running for Vice President of the United States. But I think that's sort of changing the rules just 6 days before the end. You suddenly find out that you're running for office and it's on the ballot as President of the United States, but you're not supposed to think as President of the United States, you're supposed to think as Vice President of the United States. So then when you go in there, put a blindfold over your eyes so that you don't know who you're voting for, that you're just voting for Vice President, you're not voting for the decision. And I think that's the way it should be in our country. That the people themselves decide. It's not some politicians who are meeting in Chicago who are going to decide who's going to be the Democratic nominee. It's going to be the people, and I think the people of Indiana are going to decide. I'm very grateful for your support. And with the help of Ethel, actually, I've run out of things to say about this. So we're both very, very grateful for your coming this evening, and we'll be both looking forward to meeting all of you and anything you can do over the period of the next 6 days, I'd be most grateful. Thank you very, very much.
I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to say my heartfelt thanks to every citizen of Hammond, Indiana, who helped us participate in this. You want to come up?
Your Honorable Senator and our future President, we... So.
Housing development that's sleeping in the back of automobiles, the back of cars. We're seeing farm workers who are still making only 85 or 90 cents an hour. They're still there, the unorganized. They're the ones that really desperately need help from labor organizations. They need recognition. As you know, many of these people are not recognized by the National Labor Relations Act. And they're the ones who suffer. We have 14 million people under the National Labor Relations Act in organized labor. But there are many, many more that are not at the present time. We're still suffering, and we're still going through the same kinds of problems that the UAW went through in the 1930s. The kind of social legislation that is so necessary for this country. They said, speaking of health, but speaking of education. And the representatives of the UAW led the fight in Congress and in the Senate of the United States, actually in person, for the kind of legislation that's going to make a difference in this country. We have to keep going, and it's not as if the tasks are finished, because they're unfinished. It's not as if everybody is measures that we've seen the passage of a period of the last several years, really the last 30 years. Secondly, to expand and not be contented, satisfied with what we have. I think that we're organized and they're bigger. Down a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So the job is done. The job isn't done. It's impressed me with the UAW they recognize each other. Their eyes go on.
understand. Well, I have no plans to participate in it, and why I'm not participating in it is because I'm running for President of the United States, and I think I can do the most good by that effort. For our own citizens and for citizens around the rest of the world, that we should make whatever information or techniques that we have, the knowledge that we have available to other peoples and to other countries. I don't think we should go into a country and say we think that there are too many Brazilians, and so this is the way we suggest you limit them, because I don't think that's a very acceptable way of proceeding. I think if a country decides that they wish that their population is expanding so rapidly that it's creating a problem, and they want to let their citizens know what can be done in an individual family, that we should help and assist in making that information available. Whether the man's going to be able to stop at a hotel or that he's going to be able to buy a lunch at a lunch counter. But in 1964, the clergy overran Washington, and they were vitally interested in these problems. We talk about some of these conditions that still exist and say, what can you do? And really my answer wasn't terribly satisfactory, saying for myself, but the fact is that if people start to feel strongly about it and start to organize themselves and not just leave it again to somebody else. I don't know how many of you have been down on legislation, and perhaps a good number of you have been. But this legislation is before the Congress of the United States. It's a question of, for instance, we put in an appropriation for $25 million to feed the hungry. It was cut out, and the appropriation was cut out this year, even after we found all of these conditions in the United States. $25 million has been cut out from Head Start. That means 14,000 children or 12,000 children are going to be cut from Head Start who are presently in Head Start. It means 4,000 children in Mississippi alone are going to be cut out from Head Start who are in Head Start, and you only hit a third of the children that are presently in Head Start. Anyway, but yet these programs that you've already started are going to be cut back. All of the programs are up now, and all of the effort, unless there is going to be a national stir within the country about the fact that something needs to be done, either about the cities or about our rural poverty, and you are the ones that really can make a difference, and your counterparts across the rest of the country, about the kinds of legislation that are necessary for the future of the country. Not only working yourselves, not only working privately, and not only talking about it amongst yourselves and being concerned about it, but organizing groups around the country to say that this is inhuman, that these kind of conditions that go on and continue to exist, and that you're going to have some demands from the Congress of the United States, or the executive branch of the government, or in the state itself, or individual citizens.
das Weißere.
Let him through. Let him through, please. Head for that. Head for that. Go up on that car. How do you want to do this? You want him off camera or on camera? You want to be off or on?
We're obtaining permission to speak here today. So, and there's a violation of the law. I'm taking this opportunity, however, to tell you that we are unable to speak, and that's why I'm not speaking today. But I'd be glad to shake hands, but I'm sorry that
Now, I did not show the picture of the family dining room as fast as my video was, but this is the drawing room, and the furnishings throughout the house are original. Our clock is 250 years old, and we all right. And it's the Bible. And through here we go. formal dining room is cool leather. The table is an extension table and will seat 12. We have 12 chairs.
On the come on.